Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Corny Phil back again in War Thunder. Today I'm driving out the Sherman 76 Jumbo with the APCR and all that on the Carpathians map in a realistic battle. And we're gonna have a fairly good game here. I'm not, compared to some of the replays you guys have sent in, probably doesn't hold a candle, but it was a fairly good game for me, especially considering how many hours I put into War Thunder, which the short answer is not a lot. But that's beside the point. This video today is going to be less about the gameplay, though the gameplay is decent, but more about a specific question. And that question is, why do you, this is directed to our subscribers and our viewers, why do you play the tanks you play? And to the pilots, because Lord knows there's a lot of you, judging by the number of replays we've gotten, why do you fly the planes you fly? So tankers, why do you tank in the tanks you tank? And planes, why do you fly in the planes you fly? And, of course, in some ways I'm kind of asking nationality, because that's the obvious comparison. The planes, you have 5 choices: British, Japanese, Soviet, American, and German. And then on tanks you only have 3. You have the Americans, the Russians, or the Soviets, and the Germans, though I think we're expecting the British, and I expect there will be more tanks added later on. But I guess what I'm really asking is, why did you pick what you pick? Now, in my case, in case it wasn't obvious, I prefer the American tanks, and I prefer them through and through. And on some ways, that's kind of a nationality comment. And just a quick note right here in the gameplay, when I poked my nose out over here, I was like, what the crap is going on? Because I'm used to there being a bunch of tanks out in here, but eventually we're going to catch sight of a Tiger H1 across the way, and we're going to give him the good news. But that's beside the point. Back to the question. So for me, I prefer the American tanks. And some of that is because, well, I'm an American. So, that's kind of, that's a pretty good indicator, right? I'm sure that there are a lot of Germans who like playing the German tanks, and a lot of Russian and Eastern European types that like the Soviet tanks, because that's, the nationality, that's my people, so to speak, mentality. But beyond that, I think it also comes down to sort of my experiences with tanking. My first experience with tank simulators was years and years ago. I was probably 12 at the time, so we're talking more than a decade ago. And sadly I don't remember the name of the game, but it was based in Desert Storm, so you're primarily piloting things like the Abrams. And this poor Panther, his only crime was not realizing where I was, but pretty much just rip him apart. And actually rip him apart so badly I have time to go slaughter a bunch of AI, because of course I do. But back to the thing. So I'm playing this American, kind of American-centric tanking game, dealing with the Abrams, which is historically speaking, this is during, I think the game was based during Desert Storm. This is a time when American tanks were pretty much dominant. I mean, the Americans make some good tanks. So that was kind of the initial experience I had with tanking. And then, come further down the line, I don't play tank games for a long time. Then I start getting into World of Tanks around the same time, actually a little bit later than Swiss did. And so, I naturally kind of gravitate to the Americans. And that's where I fell in love with a couple different tanks. First of all was the Hellcat, Meow, because there just something appealed to me about the Hellcat. I mean, yeah, it kind of sucked that it was basically made of tissue paper in a dream, but that 90mm cannon wrecked face. And the fact that I could go, 60 kilometers an hour, just hauling ass, and, pounding people with this 90mm made it a very easy tank to love. So that was kind of my initial love affair. And then further going on that kind of on that angle, I got the T-28, and I think it was literally the first game I drove the T-28 out. And Swiss had the T-28 already, so he was telling me, hey, this tank's kind of rough, it's kind of slow, if it gets flanked, it's dead. It's got a great gun, great frontal armor, but it's basically crap for anything else. And I was like, okay, fine. And I can't remember what map it was on in World of Tanks, but I got a map where it was nice. It was a lot of city fighting, so I just kind of rolled down a street, killing everything that got in my way. And it was one of those things where it's just like, they couldn't stop me, they couldn't hurt me. I had all the ammo in the world to ruin their day, and there was nothing they could do about it. And that was kind of the ceiling moment for me. And I think some of that, in retrospect, comes down to a relatively simple playstyle that I understood, because I was still not, and I still am not in a lot of ways, into tank sims. That's more Swiss's bag of tricks. So I understood the playstyle, I understood how it was meant to be played, and the result was that I did extremely well at it. So that was a lot of fun. Fast forwarding to War Thunder, initially I played the Germans and the Russians, but as soon as the American tanks come out, that's, where I gravitated. Now, granted, again, it's made helpful by the fact that, every nation has its own tiers of OP. And at the 5.7 battle rating, let's be real, the 76 Jumbo is just god tier. It's kind of unfair. And right here, I actually start taking fire, and I'm confused as all hell. Actually, no, right here I start taking fire. Sorry, jumped the gun a little bit. But I start taking fire right in here, and I'm like, what? I have no idea where this is coming from. I got no idea what's going on. And, it kind of freaked me out, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like, where did it come from? And I keep looking, and eventually I kind of start zeroing, and I'm like, okay, he's coming from this direction. That's helpful. Still don't see anything, so I keep looking, and I keep having fire come in on me, and I still can't figure it out. And then finally, somewhere in here, I catch sight of a shell coming from the hill. Like, there it is. Yeah, there it is. I see the shell. I'm like, okay, now I know he's up here, and I know he's up on this hill somewhere. And I finally catch a muzzle flash in. Well, that's the end of this guy. I mean, this Hetzer, I gotta say, great positioning, bro. You had me confused. If I wasn't in a 76 Jumbo, you might have done some serious harm to me. And if I hadn't been heading in your direction, you definitely would have done some serious harm to me. But as it is, shot out his driver, shot out his transmission, and then, finish the job. So yeah, kind of returning to the question, that's kind of why I play the American tanks. The 76 Jumbo wasn't the end-all, be-all, though as you can see even in this game, there's a lot of them because it's a very strong tank. It's just a combination of nationality and, some early experiences with the tanks that kind of convinced me that that's what I wanted to play. And by no means, don't assume that I don't play the Germans or the Soviets. I enjoy all the tanks. There's all these tanks that are good. Though, for example, these Stugs, and even though I'm making a complete hash of killing these guys, I hate the Stug. Because I don't understand the kind of tank design where you have 3 of your 4 crew members in a straight line. That's really bad for gameplay purposes. Because I can't count the number of times I've just like, oh look, it's a Stug, and it's dead. But that's beside the point. So again, want to pose the question out to the community here. Why do you play the tanks you play? Why do you fly the planes you fly? And feel free to tell me a story. Tell us why. And I've talked to Swiss, and he said that he's got his own reasons for the tanks he plays and why he likes to play them. So I think in a future video, I'm going to get him to do his own take on this question and kind of explain why he does what he does. But we're both actually really curious to understand, why, especially with, I feel like in some ways with planes more than tanks, because tanks you're really kind of limited in your choices. And, a lot of people I suspect play Germans because LT Gray is hard to ignore, or, the Panthers are awesome, or, the Soviets, they got some pretty ballin' tanks, and they got the derp guns. And, oh, this poor Panther. My first shot goes in, gets his loader. He breaks a decent section of my tank. And, I'm in a lot of trouble because my gunner's out, my horizontal's out, so I don't really have a lot of ways to, deal with him. But I finally commit and say, you know what, I'm dead or I'm not. So I'm just going to center my gun. I can't move it, keep in mind. And just coup de grace him. So that was very nice. That was a kill I probably didn't deserve. And I'm just going to repair out here. And that'll be basically the end of the game, though. A couple of these guys, I guess, didn't see me because I just kind of... Like, that Panzer IV over there is alive, and he just, I guess, doesn't want to kill me. So, such is life. And here I'm checking out my tanks. But anyway, again, getting off base here. The question, I'm interested in tanks and planes. I suspect the planes will be kind of interesting because there's a lot more variety. And if the answer is because it's your nationality, that's fine, because that's as good a reason as any in my book. But, if you've got an interesting story, especially, like, I know we have at least one viewer out there who, his grandfather was a Sherman tanker. If he says, I love playing the American tanks for that reason, I buy that. So anyway, there's the question. Comment section below. Why do you play the tanks you play? Why do you fly the planes you fly? Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Corny Phil. See you next time.